We'd like to thank the Independent Pharmacy Cooperative, or IPC, for sponsoring this episode.
You are listening to the global network of podcasters dedicated to the pharmacy profession. Welcome to the Pharmacy Podcast Network.
Pharmacists from across the nation have come together to redefine the possibilities of what pharmacists can do together. The American Pharmacists Association's 2026 annual conference was hosted in Los Angeles, California, where pharmacy advocacy and advancing technologies brought together key industry leaders. The Pharmacy Podcast Network brings you into the conversation with this special three-part series of the APhA annual conference post-show.
One of my favorite people in pharmacy, Kelli Stovall, here at the 2026 APhA.
Hey Todd, great to be here.
It's great to see you. So, Los Angeles, this is a time change for me. I don't like coming to the West Coast, but once I get here, I kind of like it. But I didn't leave myself enough time to see anything. Have you gotten out there?
Sunshine and the blue sky. You know, that's just wonderful to be here on this side of the United States.
It is. Talk to us about IPC, Independent Pharmacy Cooperative, making an investment to be part of the APhA.
Love APhA. You know, APhA is that conference or that convention where all pharmacy comes together across the whole industry. So, you know, I personally like to come and reset because I leave, you know, again, being so proud to be in this profession, in this industry, and, you know, meet my amazing peers across the industry. So it's really an important one for me personally. On the IPC level, you know, one of our taglines is freedom to farm. And I think what that means is empowering our pharmacies and our stores. And, you know, we do that whether it be through purchasing, through consultation, through clinical programs. We want to be able to help empower those pharmacies to go in the direction they want to and have that freedom to direct their business, pivot and direct their business how they want to and how they want it to be in the future. And coming to a conference like this really gives us that education and the background to be able to step up and help our stores where they are.
I also think freedom to farm, when I read on your website and the marketing that the team has done, it's about removing obstacles so that you are free. You have a freedom to provide pharmacy services, and that's because of your member base is feeding IPC all of this knowledge about what's not working so that you guys can pivot and turn it into something to make it that it doesn't become an obstacle anymore. So talk to us about some of the success that some of those programs have rolled out, and now it's a program for every one of your members.
I think that, you know, that's a great question, and one of the things that comes to mind is because we have this membership that is all across the nation and we're able to talk with so many members, then we see a lot of people that have started early, maybe made some mistakes and pivoted and been able to really recover from that. And so we are able to then take our experience with these members and then spread it out and allow that information to also help someone else be successful down the way.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think of the places that you show up in the components of government relations and your the ability to execute better decisions on contracting, and then the generic warehouse to be able to get the right medication and accessibility. And so there's this whole center of support for the membership, and then of course then the individual programs which are helping to create profit, and those are some of the most exciting ones I like talking about. So when I think about that in the age of pharmacy, we're going to be moving from the dispenser, which is very important, but into actually caring for a patient that may have a chronic disease state or something that's happening. Talk to us a little bit about what IPC has been able to help teach their members of those profit opportunities that are embedded in care, that are embedded in programs that are desperately needed in communities that sometimes don't have a pharmacy for miles.
Like remote patient monitoring, chronic care management, and especially with the Rural Health Transformation Program that's on board right now, those things are just going to expand. And we have extensive education. We have a team that will work with our stores, educate them on those programs, explain those CPT codes, what you can do for billing, how you can work with providers in your area for collaborative practice agreements. I'd also like to point out, in addition to the list that you named, is our vendor programs are incredibly strong. Mm-hmm. So we work with about 50 vendors that we have contracted with to bring discounts to our membership, and it saves our stores millions of dollars in contract savings every year. And through these vendors, we can help advance remote patient monitoring. You got to have devices, and so that has really helps a store be innovative. It's hard to innovate without a vendor, so we're really proud of the vendor program we bring to our members as well.
Well, we're proud of IPC. Your partnership with Pharmacy Podcast Network has been pivotal for us to help us grow, especially talking about issues that are very specific to independent community pharmacy versus our coverage of specialty pharmacy or long-term care pharmacy. But it's funny. I start seeing IPC playing in all of those aspects, and you're showing up. I see Mark at EMBA, so you guys are actually showing up everywhere.
But you know what? Where can we touch our members? Because it's a time where there's such opportunity for expansion. Of course, there's struggles as well, but there's also such opportunities for expansion. And if we don't have that background in all of these areas, then we can't help like we want to help as a GPO and as a buying group. So.
Kelli Stovall here at the APhA 2026. Thanks so much for spending time with us.
All right. Thank you, Todd.
My name is Amantha Bagdon. I am the founder and CEO of RxPost. Welcome to the Pharmacy Podcast.
Amantha, here at the APhA 2026. It's so good to see you.
It's good to see you again. We're kicking off conference season.
I know it is conference season. It means that last year I promised my wife, I said I'm going to attend 8. I attended 12, or I think it might have been 13. This year I'm trying to stay at around 11, but it'll probably turn out to be 14. It's hard not to go to conferences.
I think I have 18 planned on our road show, and I'll be attending most of them, but we'll compare notes at the end.
So RxPost, right out of the gate, give our listeners a little background on what is RxPost.
Yeah. We're a pharmacy-to-pharmacy marketplace, and we help independent pharmacies sell their unused drugs to other pharmacies.
That makes sense. I just want to let listeners know you didn't get to come to Los Angeles and come to the APhA 2026. The absolute incredible, most coolest booth out there is RxPost. Whose idea was that to build something that's so, it's almost like going to Disney World or something to walk into your booth. It's so beautiful.
Well, I'm from Los Angeles, and this is where the company HQ is, and so since APhA was making its way out here, I thought I needed to really expand on bringing the magic into the show, and I think our booth is a great way for people to capture video, grab some jumbo pens, some cotton candy, and bring that magic back home with them.
It really is. It's very special. So just for we're audio, so people listening to a podcast, it was colorful. You had balloons all together. You had like spongy things. It looks like I could jump into it. Describe the booth a little bit to the listeners.
Yeah, so we went with a pastel rainbow theme for the booth, and we have just these bright, colorful balloons everywhere, star balloons everywhere. We have little pills that are a balloon inside of a balloon pressed up on the outside, so it almost looks like the pills are taped onto the balloon. We have pill-shaped pillows, or pill-O's, I guess is what they would be. Bright cotton candy, and I think what's been really fun is a lot of people have enjoyed our jumbo-sized pens, and the reason that we made that swag is for people to bring these jumbo pens back to the pharmacy and give it to their favorite pharmacy technician, because we know how we all fight over pens in the pharmacy.
I love it. So something special about you, Amantha, that I've noticed over the years and knowing you is you constantly are giving back to the profession in the realm of things that are not getting enough attention. And one of the places that I think you speak very well because of your experience as a tech yourself is the pharmacy technician. So, and that's one of your passions too. And it's to bring more notice to the tech. It's to raise the tech. It's to give more responsibility in growing their careers. Give some of that background to our listeners.
Yeah, I've been a pharmacy technician for 20 years. My first job was at Rite Aid across the street when I was 16 years old, working in the pharmacy, and I just absolutely fell in love. And then I ended up working at an independent pharmacy here in Los Angeles for a long time, and I think that's where I really had my eyes open to the world of community independent pharmacy and really caring about patients. And I knew I could get paid more probably working at a chain store, but I loved my pharmacy family. And, I think when I was with a partner at the time, making technician wages and splitting rents was feasible, but I think that it's really important for pharmacy technicians to understand that this is a long-term career, and we need to get the rest of the industry on board with paying wages where a pharmacy technician is going to stay and they're going to grow, especially as standard of care kind of takes off in other states. That means that pharmacy technician support system needs to occur in the pharmacy to allow pharmacists to practice a lot of those services and build that infrastructure. And that is something I'm super passionate about, is how do we get pharmacy technicians to be mini entrepreneurs within their own store, bring in additional revenue so that the pharmacy owner doesn't have to make that difficult choice of saying, like, maybe you're only going to get a quarter raise because we're losing so much money on these prescriptions.
Yeah, so the elephant in the room with techs is the realm of AI, and I heard several comments that I was very argumentative about that said, hey, AI is going to, make the pharmacy technicians less and less needed. And I laughed and I'm like, that's such bullshit. I was like, here's the thing. If we have inventory or something double checking or something that the tech was normally doing that you're saying now that AI is taking over, why isn't that same technician now being used to develop something within the pharmacy to bring in more revenue by being creative or being entrepreneurial, like you said? So I think that this is the age of the pharmacy tech in opposite of what's being said about AI. But give us your reflection on that, because I know that you think the same kind of a way that I do.
Yeah, I think that pharmacy technicians, everyone in the careers really, but pharmacy technicians have a lot of skill sets that probably aren't being optimized for or even recognized in the pharmacy. And AI is this interesting tool, this disintermediary that allows if a pharmacy technician to maybe work on professional development over the weekend, learn how to use Claude Code or Claude Cowork, and bring that back into the pharmacy and augment the work that they're doing and say, hey, these are the repetitive tasks, and if I can use AI automation, if I can have a trigger, a sequence, and an outcome, that's going to free me up to spend more time with patients. We want the same thing that pharmacists want. We want more time with the patients. We want to be able to take better care of them. And I think AI really unlocks that.
It does. RxPost started because of your love of the business of pharmacy, but talk to us about the beginnings of RxPost and now what it's become, where it can become a national tool for all of the pharmacies that want to use it.
Yeah, I remember thinking about RxPost. 2014 is when I had thought about the concept, and we were trading with other independent pharmacies, and I thought, this is, talking about repetition and automation, like, I'm spending so much time calling around to other pharmacies, seeing if they have something that we are out of stock of, or if we had surplus inventory, if we could offload it to them, because we couldn't take a $5,000 hit on a medication if that expires on our shelf. And then jumping into my car during my lunch break to go pick up the medication or drop off the medication to the other pharmacy, or waiting for a check in the mail from the other pharmacy for that payment. And we would just scribble on a piece of paper and tape a note to the wall that Elliot's Pharmacy owes us that $5,000. And I just thought, if this piece of paper falls off the wall, there's just no accounting for it. And, like, my time is better spent on things that are going to drive the pharmacy forward and not calling around to other pharmacies. So, no one wants their career necessarily in the pharmacy to be just about inventory management, although I know those are some roles, especially in large health systems. We don't work with health systems, but we think that in the future that's definitely a possibility.
So is it the independent pharmacy that is mostly using RxPost right now?
Yeah, we do primarily, I think 100% of our pharmacies are independent pharmacies. Over 90% of our customers are single location pharmacies because we started here in California. But as we've expanded towards the East Coast, we're now operational in 17 states. We've come across some multi-location stores where they know they have surplus and they know they need to get it from one store to another, but they don't have an easy way of doing it. They're still bogging down the pharmacy managers. They're still typing everything into an Excel spreadsheet, and interestingly enough, we found out that RxPost out of the box also serves as a solution for multi-location pharmacy businesses, and so that's where our journey is taking us this year.
That's awesome. Tell our listeners how best to reach out to you and learn more about RxPost.
Yeah, well, if you want to see our balloon booth, some photos, you can find us on Instagram at @RX_post. And I'm most active on LinkedIn under Amantha Bagdon or our RxPost company page.
I appreciate you. It's so good to see you. It's great to be. Actually, this is nice for you because it's kind of in your backyard.
I walk here. Yeah, it's so close. I love it. I can snag all the swag, and I don't have to worry about getting it onto a plane.
Snag the swag, exactly. They're never going to have an APhA in Pittsburgh, unfortunately. So I'm not going to be able to be in my backyard, but they're having it in North Carolina next year. So you have to travel.
But our signature swag is going to be our jumbo-sized pen. So if you couldn't make it to APhA, if you're heading out to any of the other conferences, please find us, snag some. Kids love them.
I love it. Thank you so much, Amantha.
Thank you, Todd, for having me.
APhA 2026 here with Dixie Leikach from PeerRx. Dixie, it's so good to see you.
Always great to see you, Todd, and I really appreciate you being here at our annual meeting this year.
Yes, and it's an in and out for me. I came in last night, was here only for a day, flying out this evening. We've committed to the Pharmacy Profit Summit in Dallas, so I'm headed to Dallas.
At least you don't have to go too far.
Yeah,
It's kind of like when I saw you at Pennsylvania Pharmacists Association meeting, and it was like I flew in and flew right back out. So I wish I had been able to stay a little longer, but
sometimes that's what happens.
We agree to too much sometimes, right?
Exactly. All right, so let's give updates on Peer. First of all, give the listeners just a quick update, just in case they haven't heard of it. What is PeerRx?
Sure. PeerRx is pharmacy ethics education and resources. It's a nonprofit in pharmacy ethics that I founded in 2015. Actually got the idea after the 2014 APhA meeting. I started thinking about, what was going on at the time. We had NECC. We were still kind of recovering from that tragedy and how it affected pharmacy and pharmacy practice and the ethic. I started thinking about the ethics behind that. And if I wanted to start talking about that, how could I make it different than when everybody else is talking about med safety and law and things like that, using it from an ethical standpoint versus just what's right. And, it's like what's the law or what isn't the law. Yes. Like not everything's covered by the law that pharmacists run into. So I started that in 2015, and since then have been doing podcasts with Pharmacy Podcast Network. We provide 4 half-hour CE programs on my website that you were graciously partnered with me to get live on there, and also some additional specifically pharmacy ethics continuing education modules on my website, PeerRx.org, and giving the opportunity, if you've been, a lot of times the Board of Pharmacy will sanction a pharmacist or a pharmacy technician and tell them they need to do so many CEs on ethics. And if you start searching for that and you're a pharmacist, you want to take something that you're going to be able to use. And there weren't any pharmacy-specific continuing education programs on ethics and how it affects pharmacy practice. So I saw that void, and I'm just trying to fill it. So I was fortunate to be able to speak yesterday at one of the continuing education programs here for APhA, and then I'm doing their April Hot Topics webinar. So kind of building on the case studies that I presented yesterday and digging in a little deeper during the webinar. So hopefully some of your listeners, if they're APhA members, they can see what it's all about by attending that webinar in April.
So as you're talking, Dixie, I think of a conversation that I just had with my daughter on Thursday as we were at the bus stop. We usually have about 5 to 10 minutes with each other. I either say a quick prayer with her, or ask her how her day is going to go, or try to reflect on something. And she was frustrated, and she reminds me of myself in school. I didn't really like school as much because I don't think it was stimulating. I was so hyperactive and so creative that I always wanted to do something extra. So I told her that school is there to teach you to learn. Not necessarily what to learn, but how to learn.
Right.
And how to apply certain principles of repetitiveness to drive things into your memory, or figuring out something, and then really honing in to try to figure out what are you most interested in. Are you into the maths or the sciences or whatever? So when I think of that, and then I think of law, I think of lawyers have to go to so much school to memorize different cases that have happened before. So now I come to ethics, and ethics isn't, to me, with all the materials that I've read from you, different things that I've read about ethics, healthcare ethics is probably one of the most complex things that we could dig into. Right. And then it comes into debate too, for goodness sakes.
Right.
But when we have it black and white finally, it goes through PeerRx and you guys come out with some modules, or you come out with some new CE, if I'm a practitioner, if I'm a provider, there's going to be a level of comfort to be able to look back to the content to say, oh, in this case, here's how PeerRx kind of defined this. However, don't you think PeerRx is there to try to teach the pharmacist and teach the tech how to think, or not what to think, but how to think?
100%. Yesterday when I presented the case studies, I gave different scenarios of what I try to get pharmacists, pharmacy technicians, student pharmacists to think through the process of making the decision. And because it's not always black and white. I can't say, even if the answer seems clear, there may be other possibilities. Speaking towards our keynote speaker we just had, there might be other possibilities. Just not filling a prescription, it might be one one decision, but what is actually more ethical to go a little above and beyond either filling the prescription or not filling the prescription, or questioning why you would fill the prescription, or even how you treat your pharmacy team and the other, all the members on your team. How do you respond to a medication error? It's not just the logistics and mechanics of the error itself and the documentation, but how are you approaching the patient about it? Are you contacting the prescriber if that's necessary, or seems to be necessary? And how do you go through that decision-making process using your using an ethical framework to make those decisions? So it's absolutely 100%. I even said it yesterday that I'm not telling you what the answer is. I'm not telling you the answer is easy. I'm giving you the possibilities of things I know are happening out there. And if we practice, my whole thing is, if we practice these conversations and these decisions, while we're not in a stressful situation, and especially if not in front of a patient, we have to make decisions very quickly.
Yep.
And if we haven't practiced that or talked about it outside that realm, then it's going to be more difficult. And I think, as our younger generation comes up and comes through, I think they are used to being told this is the answer,
Yep.
or it is black and white. And there is a lot of gray in healthcare.
Yep.
There's sometimes, you might have to break the law to be the best thing for your patient. And how do you justify that and look at that and be able to figure out that decision making as to what is going to be best for the patient, because they're our primary responsibility. And it's not easy. It's a tough conversation sometimes to have. And it also, every situation's different, because your personal ethics might be different than mine. I might see things more black and white, and maybe you're a little more gray. And it depends. You also have to live with yourself.
Yep.
And when you see something, there are a lot of signs around here that say, when you see something, say something.
Yes.
And I think that's another thing I'm really trying to hone in for people, that if you're seeing things at your practice site that shouldn't be that way, and I'd like to think after NECC, after you have all these regulations where these things shouldn't be happening, but practitioners are still letting it go and not saying anything, or maybe they just leave and it continues to happen, and then people get sick and
Yep.
people die and people are damaged by that. So, and you have to live with that. So knowing that you have an ethical responsibility to speak up, to figure out how to solve or fix the problem. Like, this is not okay, we need to fix it. And having that confidence to be able to do that, and going through that decision-making process of how you're going to do that instead of just reacting.
And not to put pressure on the listener right now, but you pharmacist out there that's listening, you may be the only person in the patient's life that's going to take the time to do something that's difficult, or make a decision that's difficult, or stand up for the patient with parents, or with the insurance provider, or with somebody else in the
Sometimes
equation.
The prescriber.
The prescriber.
Unfortunately, sometimes
fighting.
we get intimidated. Like, who are we to question what the prescriber
Yes.
wants? And if you're not comfortable with it, having that difficult conversation versus just getting rid of it and being like, I can't fill this, or I don't have the medication, and those little white lies we kind of do to avoid those conversations, because we face, again, it's not easy. We are busy. We have a lot of things on our plate that we need to get done, and sometimes pushing it off is faster. But we really, when you start looking at these situations from an ethical standpoint and knowing who you are and what's important to you, you start looking at these situations very differently. And that's just what I'm trying to do and get out there.
I love it. So how do listeners connect with you? How do they learn more about PeerRx?
Sure. They can visit my website or my Facebook page, LinkedIn. We're, again, Pharmacy Ethics, Education, and Resources, or you can normally just find it by searching PeerRx.
Right.
Two R's.
2 R's. All right. Well, Dixie Leikach, thanks so much for being on the show. Thank you for always being willing to share and talk with us. We have to do a This Week in Pharmacy with you coming up later this year.
That'd be great. I really appreciate your support, Todd. You've been great for us. Help us get the word out there.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Independent pharmacy is the heart of community care. At Independent Pharmacy Cooperative, we believe your success strengthens the health and well-being of the communities you serve. As the nation's largest member-owned GPO, IPC helps pharmacies thrive with competitive pricing, profit sharing, and the support of a team who shares your vision. Let's build the future of independent pharmacy together and gain the freedom to farm. Visit IPCRx.com to start the conversation with an IPC representative today.
We are here at the 2026 APhA. I'm here with Dr. Erin Parsons, Director of Compliance with LSPedia. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me today.
All right, pharmacist in compliance. pharmacists keep people safe. Compliance ultimately keeps people safe. It's actually a pretty good marriage. So talk to us about what you do at LSPedia.
Absolutely. So I joined the LSPedia team about 6 months ago. I practiced community pharmacy for about 16 years and came over to LSPedia to take that knowledge and that passion for taking care of our patients and helping them build out their solution to best help their healthcare clients and their pharmacy clients. Because what LSPedia does as a software solution is help those pharmacy customers utilize our software to make sure that they are compliant with DSCSA, which is a newer regulation to the pharmacy space. And DSCSA is all about protecting the supply chain. And I think every pharmacist who went to pharmacy school ultimately got into it because they care about patients and making sure patients get the medications they need and that they're safe and they're not getting a fraudulent medication. And that is where that marriage between like operations and compliance was a really good fit for me and why I'm passionate about what LSPedia brings to the market.
So I learned about LSPedia from MatchRx, which is a partner of yours as well. Shout out to Johnny Kello. He's amazing, really cares about his client base. He cares about the profession. That's why he's partnered with LSPedia, because he's like, hey, listen, we're missing an element of all of this around compliance. Talk to us about the upcoming webinar that you guys are going to be doing together.
Yeah, I look forward to it. We're still building out what that agenda and that's going to look like. But one of the big things I think that all of us are passionate about and why we're trying to kick this partnership off in this webinar is there's still such a need to educate the community pharmacy about what DSCSA means and what they're obligated to do. Because the DSCSA regulation came into effect in 2013 and there was a 10-year ramp-up period and then a number of delays. So many pharmacies just think they still don't have obligations and they're not required to do anything. And frankly, that's just not true. So we're partnering with other organizations who feel passionately and have customer bases that they want to make sure are prepared and working together on that education and helping get those teams connected to the resources they need.
So when I think of the role of the pharmacist and how drastically it's changed, I entered pharmacy in 2004, been podcasting since 2009, and just in the 17 years that we started the show, so much has changed for representation of where pharmacists are showing up and what they're doing. I can't think of a better place for a pharmacist to be doing DSCSA overwatch and compliance and consultancy. So when you look back in your career as a pharmacist and you came from community, what is this opportunity with LSPedia? What's it pulling out of your education that's really honing into the secret sauce of what it is to be a pharmacist?
So it's a great question. Let me think about how I want to answer that. I think what it does is it allows me to leverage so much of how pharmacists are so good at doing so many things. We are such a critical part of our communities. We wear so many hats, and we are such a valuable, trusted resource. And this role and what LSPedia does is continues to allow pharmacists to be a trusted resource. We help our pharmacists know that they're dispensing safe medications to their patients. We work with them, and one of the big things we offer versus some of the others in the marketplace is we're your partners. We are there for audit support. We have had historically like customers reach out who are like, the board of pharmacy was in and they were asking this question and I felt wildly unprepared. Not only do we help that customer, but we also then take that experience and make sure we get that message out to everyone else, because it is so important for us that our teams feel comfortable when a regulator walks in the door so that they're not stressed and they can focus on what they do best in taking care of their patients. And I think everything I've learned in my career along the way has helped me make sure that we're focusing on letting them do their jobs and what they do best and taking some of that burden off their plate.
That's awesome. Well, we're looking forward to doing more with LSPedia. By the way, listeners, go to lspedia.com to learn more. Reach out to Erin if you have any questions. Erin, this has been great. Thanks for being part of the show.
Thanks for asking me to join. It's a pleasure to meet you guys.
Sally Rafie here with me at APhA 2026. Dr. Rafie, it's so good to see you.
So good to be here in person with you.
Hey, you have been a pioneer in the realm of, if people don't know, the birth control pharmacist, and your passion to deliver contraception, birth control, but doing it through pharmacists, but then taking advantage of what pharmacists can do from the 360 degree of health. tell our listeners a little bit about the mission and what you guys are doing right now.
Yeah, that's what we're here for. We are here to support pharmacists in providing contraception care, the full spectrum of reproductive health services and women's health in their practices, whether they're in community pharmacy or another practice setting. We're here as pharmacists to help them along the way, peers helping peers.
So I'm always looking out for opportunities for pharmacists to slow things down with clients and patients and educate. Because if you think about it, that's safety. I mean, number one reason a pharmacist is in existence is the safety aspect, but safety comes with education. So talk to us about how would you coach a community pharmacy to roll out such a program with all the busyness that is part of an everyday life of a pharmacist and tech team?
Totally. We get the realities on the front lines. We're there too. We know what it's like. It's very busy. Pharmacists are doing a ton of things. But part of that can be access. It's safety and access, and we are there to help our community members get what they need to take care of themselves and provide that education, provide the products, provide the services, all of the above. The best ways to get started with contraception care is to help patients with refills. So they're already on something that they like, and they're just out of refills. It's a pretty straightforward visit. You just make sure they don't have any contraindications to the medication and send them on their way with a fresh supply. Those are pretty straightforward visits, maybe 5 minutes, and it's a great way to get started.
So, Sally, I want to give a shout out to the buying groups that we work with. We work with IPC. We've been working with them now for 3 or 4 years. APCI, CPA. There's so many alphabet soups out there of buying groups. The reason why I want to shout out buying groups is this is an opportunity to build programs for your independent community pharmacies that can drive new revenues. And even starting out with a community awareness program that you put out an ad in the paper, or you do some kind of outreach to local community services or community health services or clinics, educating a physician. When we have the 12-year-old, the 14-year-old, the 16-year-old girl that's going through with puberty and things like that, to educate and take an opportunity to say, hey, here's the realm of taking a pill versus getting a shot versus, what this does for hormones, or what this does for appetite, or whatever it is. It's an opportunity to demystify. So talk to us a little bit about how could we use birth control pharmacists in your programs, and then I also want to ask you a follow-up question about visits, but talk to us about building programs like that.
Yeah, so like you said, these patients, it's the beginning. It's the beginning of their journey as adults, as folks navigating a variety of reproductive health issues, and also the beginning of a relationship with the pharmacy. So you have them there in front of you, you do education, comprehensive counseling about what all their options might be when it comes to birth control when the time comes. Maybe they're not interested today, but you're providing that education, planting those seeds so when it is time for them to want to use something, they know they can come to you for it. And once they've come to you for their birth control, they're more likely to come to you for vaccines that they need, or they're going on an international trip with school and they need to do their travel health visit, or whatever it might be. It just starts that relationship, and hopefully they're with you for decades to come.
There's so many people that don't realize what is the opportunity at the pharmacy. So this really creates the relationship first, and now you're filling it with other services that you can bring on. With that, let's transition to the world of visits. Talk to us about the Visits program.
Yeah, so Visits is our new pharmacist prescribing software. We just launched it here at this conference this weekend. Very exciting. And this is really designed to make the process more efficient, give pharmacists more confidence in providing this service, and just make it that much easier for everyone involved, the patient, the pharmacist, our pharmacy support team members, everybody. So patients can hop on the website and schedule their appointment and fill in their health information. That crosses over onto the pharmacist side, and in the background it is working the algorithm, that is our pharmacist-powered algorithm, takes into account medical eligibility criteria from the CDC guidelines, patient preferences around their birth control, and it provides the pharmacist with recommendations on this is the best match products for this patient to help them choose something that is going to work best for that patient. And provides other buckets of medications like these would work, but they're not preferred for this patient, or these require referral, or these are not safe for the patient. So really gives pharmacists the ability to get that clinical decision support in making their prescribing decisions, and then from there meets all of their state-specific requirements in terms of documentation, notifying the PCP, giving the patient a summary of the visit. All of that takes care of it for them. So, and also does medical billing.
That's awesome.
So they can bill for the visit, which has been such a big barrier for pharmacies to get started on this. I always tell them, actually, people are willing to pay cash for this, and you will get plenty of patients coming in for cash pay visits. However, if a patient has insurance, it's nice for them to be able to use it at the pharmacy, right? So it does open the door for pharmacies to start doing medical billing. We've got the credentialing services now. We can get folks fully set up. They can bill for this service and so much more, hopefully, as those doors continue to open for pharmacies.
All right, so someone's listening. They're like, I want to understand what Sally and the team's doing. How do they get a hold of you? How do we reach out to you?
Yeah, so